I'm Sean Fennessy.
I'm Amanda Dobbins.
And this is the Big Picture, a conversation show about the final movies of 2025. Today on the show, we're discussing 3 2025 wide releases that maybe you checked out with your family over the holidays. All 3 feel familiar with roots in traditional Hollywood subgenres, but all 3 are also a little bit different. I'm referring to the soapy, sexy melodrama, The Housemaid, the meta-action creature comedy Anaconda, and the Neil Diamond-inspired true-life biopic Song Sung Blue. Which of these 3 did I like? Here's a hint. Later in the show, I have a conversation with director Craig Brewer, who also wrote this movie and wrote Hustle and Flow and Dolomite Is My Name, directed that film. Song Sung Blue is his latest. A little bit similar, a little different from his previous work. At heart, it's a musical, sincere, and deeply felt movie. Stick around for our conversation. Craig is a wonderful guy and filmmaker. We'll talk about these movies right after this.
This episode of The Big Picture is presented by Amazon Prime. You know how in every great holiday movie, there's that last-minute scramble to make it all come together? From gifts to hosting essentials, Prime's fast shipping is always there for you during the holidays, especially when it's last minute and just can't wait. So if you need fast, free delivery that saves the day, it's on Prime. Head to amazon.com/prime to shop now.
Okay. Last licks.
Yeah, here we go.
This is the end.
So we're not going to do the Odyssey trailer because it's too late after everyone
I mean, it will have been a full week. So you want to talk about it? I mean, let's talk about it.
My review is it looked good.
Yeah, that's the problem with this discussion
I was like,
is
oh, cool.
I'm in.
Yeah.
And I think the production design
looks impressive.
Yes. I got particular chills watching the men rowing on the giant ship.
That spoke to you?
That is very practical and beautiful looking.
I thought the Cyclops looked cool.
Yes, the brief glimpse we saw of the giant in the cave.
I assume that was the Cyclops.
I think you're right.
And I thought Anne Hathaway looked very pretty.
Sure, yes, as well.
Once again, I found myself Googling what I can do to try to look like Anne Hathaway.
Well, these are high bars that we're setting for ourselves. Matt Damon, of course, playing Odysseus in the ancient Roman Greek text. How dare you?
Yeah. Lock it down.
You know, I've obviously been on a big upswing with Christopher Nolan in the last few years.
I thought you were going to say I've been on a big upswing with Homer.
No. I read the Odyssey in school, like so many others. Never read the Iliad.
Really?
Never read it.
I read it did I read it? Yeah, I read some of it in Greek.
In Greek?
Yeah,
no
I think
kidding.
I did. Well, I just know that Menon is the first word of the Iliad, and that means rage. And that's what the Iliad is about.
And that explains why you connected with it. I'm very excited about the Odyssey. I do think it's probably the one battle after another of 2026 for us, where it's like you can count on somewhere between 3 and 12 episodes about the movie. It's just very exciting to see Christopher Nolan using his power for good. A big, grand story that is no capes, different kind of heroism than what we're used to in this country, right?
Yeah.
About a man just trying to get home to his family.
Yeah, that's right.
And be a good guy. Why can't we make more movies about good guys?
Despite all the temptations along the way.
That's right.
It's hard out here for you guys.
Got these sirens singing us songs, trying to get us to come sully ourselves. Odysseus says no. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I got to go see Anne Hathaway. Who among us?
I think he sort of says no.
Sort of.
After saying yes. You know?
Yeah. Well, they're very, they're tempting. You know, that's their whole thing. You think he'll zag? Like, you think Wonder Woman will be in this? Like, what do you think is going to happen? You never know. Okay. I mean, will there be, I guess there's going to be an Avengers Doomsday trailer while we're out.
Oh, right. There were like 6 of them.
Yeah,
Jack said he saw one. And
did you
he
see one,
described
Jack?
it to me, and it was like Chris Evans holding a shield.
What?
No. Chris Evans is holding a baby, and the camera slowly pans up from the baby to his face. And then it cuts to text. It says Steve Rogers will return in Avengers Doomsday. And then a clock starts ticking down to when the movie will be played in theaters.
Is it his baby?
Who knows? I'm not really caught up in that.
Baby
regard.
Thanos. He
Is
went
the
back
baby
in
purple?
time, got in the DeLorean, got baby Thanos, was like, I'm bringing this baby with me.
Was Thanos purple when he was born?
Or
does he take on powers that make him purple?
I don't even have a joke. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, like, so
he's an alien. Yes, he's an alien with purple skin.
Okay. And that is like, that's what he's like and not just how he appears to human beings? You know,
Is this like is Pandora a real place question? I don't know.
I'm trying to engage.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I'm getting involved in all the blockbusters for 2026.
I think it's reasonable to be concerned about Avengers Doomsday.
Okay, I certainly am.
I think it's reasonable. I would love to love it. I really would.
I would love to love it too. I would love to let joy back into my heart after
it's
my
been how
weekend
many years now?
at the box office where I saw Zootopia 2 with my child. It's a thumbs down for me.
Shameful.
And
it was a shameful act.
I took a brief nap during it as well.
Okay.
Once they went to Zootopia.
Hard to believe you thought it was confusing.
Once they went to Zootopia Burning Man, I was like, I can jump out of this for 10 minutes.
You missed the Shakira song?
No, they performed it again at the end. And my son said, I want to stay for this. But anyway,
Thank you.
I had what I thought was like maybe the apex of my parenting when after I took a quick nap, my almost 4-year-old son said, "What's happening?" And I startled awake. And what I said as I was half awake was, "I don't know, but everyone's okay." And that reassured him. And then we moved on.
Yeah.
Everyone was okay.
Sometimes you have to lie when you're a parent. And that's an amazing example of that. Well, it's just scintillating stuff. Thank you so much.
And then we saw the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer, which he was very excited about. So
yeah, I think the trailer is bad, actually.
I
wait till he sees Star Wars. It's going to be fucking amazing.
I mean, he was interested but perplexed by Grogu.
Aren't we all?
But you could see the wheels turning, So maybe it's my year of blockbusters. Maybe I'll be really, really into Mandalorian and Grogu. Maybe I'll be really into Avengers Doomsday. Obviously, I'm going to be into the Odyssey. It's just going to be Cinema Amanda with my popcorn.
Me showing Knox Captain America Winter Soldier is going to hit fucking crack. It might be 6 more years, but it's going to be unbelievable when I'm like, that's Bucky Barnes, my friend. Let me tell you a little something about this Winter Soldier. It's going to be incredible.
Do you know how many Avatar questions he has for you? Waiting for you when he sees you?
Ready. There's way too many guns in that movie. I realize.
Oh no, he can. He can never ever. He can never ever see it. But
never ever.
I'm trying to keep them away from that.
78 years old,
some 10-year-old brought Nerf guns to the playground, and I was like, "What are we doing here?" And Knox just sat down and just was like, I told him he couldn't have them; that those were for big kids, but not in our family.
Those were for Na'vi.
And then he just sat down watching the Nerf guns for 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's why they make them. They're very alluring.
I know that. I told Chris this story, and he was like, "Yeah, of course he did."
Yeah.
So he can never
Who doesn't love a
see
Nerf gun?
Avatar, but he has through various advertisements learned the full title. And so when anyone says Avatar, he says Fire and Ash.
It's incredible how screwed you are.
I know.
It is astonishing. He's the most Avatar boy I've ever encountered in terms of he's an adventurous kid who wants to run around and see the world. That's fucking Avatar, man.
This all started because he wanted to know about a movie with parachutes. And I was like, well, can I tell you about some jellyfish parachutes?
Yeah.
And then he asked me the names of the creatures. I was like, I don't know.
You gotta show them in order. We have to start with Avatar.
Okay,
set the world building up.
That is your problem.
Okay.
Okay? And I will refer him to you.
I think we should just get him right in touch with Big Jim. Just see if they can connect. Big Jim just sold the hell out of that movie. He just did so much press. I've never seen him do so much press.
Yeah. It's whatever. Leo was on podcasts this year, you know?
This podcast.
Yeah.
That's a fact. Leonardo DiCaprio in 2025 was on this podcast.
It's true. So listen, anything's possible. Dream big, as they say. Dream big.
Somebody was dreaming about The Housemaid.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was. It wasn't me last night after having seen it, but we should talk about it.
Yeah.
A very interesting modern artifact, I would say.
I am going to be very honest with the listeners of the show. I did not have a bad time.
I'm not sure what kind of a time I had.
I don't think
I'm kind of sorting through it.
I don't think it's good, but I was at times entertained.
Okay, so I have decided to use the fuck, marry, kill delineation for this episode.
Great. Okay.
There are 3 movies, and we must decide which ones we will fuck, which ones we will marry, and which ones we will kill.
Yeah.
Now you can decide to fuck all 3 if you really want to, I guess.
It would be in the spirit of The Housemaid.
The Housemaid is the obvious fuck,
yeah,
right? Because you gotta at least give this one shot. You know, Sydney Sweeney and Amanda Seyfried in a steamy, campy, erotic thriller.
Sure.
for all the straight boys at home, sheesh. Like, that's just crazy town on paper. So, co-produced and directed by Paul Feig, the movie is set in a pretty similar register, I would say, to A Simple Favor, a movie he had a big hit with like 10 years ago and made a sequel to very recently. It is based on a 2022 novel of the same name by Frida McFadden. Are you familiar with the novel in any way?
I'm not.
Okay. As I said, Sydney Sweeney, Amanda Seyfried, Brandon Sklenar plays the husband figure in this movie. Elizabeth Perkins plays his mom. Nice to see her. The story is thus a young woman with a troubled past who becomes the live-in housemaid for a wealthy family. Their seemingly perfect life unravels when she discovers their household hides dark secrets. We will be spoiling the movies in this conversation.
Yes.
If you haven't seen the movie The Housemaid, you don't want the twist spoiled for you, do not listen to this episode. There would be no point in discussing this movie if you did not discuss the twists.
Correct.
Did you like The Housemaid?
Do I want more of this? I want more good versions of this. We were talking recently. I don't even know whether the episode has come out yet.
Yes. Is this thing on an Ella McKay? Is that what you're thinking of?
No, I'm thinking of Gone Girl, which is this movie owes a great debt to and obviously is quite poor in comparison to.
Yes.
But I like that we're trying to make the Gone Girls of the world. This doesn't live up to it. And I think some of that is because the reveal itself is like fairly disappointing. And I do also just think that the performances are okay to good.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would say the script and the production design, which is a major part of movies like this, are not as good.
Yes.
We have to talk about interior design in this country. We have to talk about it and what we're aspiring to.
You are the host of several shows on this network. Is anyone stopping you from speaking of interior design?
I'm saying I'm inviting you in.
Okay.
It's
a big tent, the interior design tent.
We've got to talk about the shiny gold door handles on the cabinetry. We've got to talk about great rooms. We've got to talk about, the double floor, but then there's no walls and no doors. And where is anyone supposed to live? Where is anyone supposed to get any sort of private time?
No idea what you're talking about.
We've got to talk about our choice of wallpaper, when we're going to use it, when we're not going to use it. Oh, what fun. You're also on notice for your choices in wallpaper.
Haven't seen that yet.
I saw half of it after Jack texted me. And we've got to use color again. I mean, color is one of the great elements of art and life, and certainly of visual cinema. So we need to just stop it with all the beiges.
This is a black and white and beige film.
Yes.
The color palette of the movie is interesting. I mean, it's a very wintry movie, so it makes sense, right? In the opening sequence, we see the Amanda Seyfried character, who is this aspirant housemaid, come to apply for a job at an elegant gated home.
In Great Neck.
In Great Neck, yes. This is a Long Island film. In some ways, and there was certainly a Long Island rage at the core of this movie that is very recognizable to me.
Yeah.
It's a movie that I think wants to be very Gone Girl, but also wants to be an Adrian Lyne kind of movie. It wants to be very sexy and steamy, but it really feels more like kind of a post 50 Shades of Grey film where there's like kind of a polish and a sheen on it, and the way that these films are lit now doesn't really do a lot of favors to the mystery and the allure of the actors who are at the center of it. And I do think that the twist is very disappointing.
Yeah.
And the film makes you wait a very long time for the twist. Now, the Sydney Sweeney character applies for this job. And despite the fact that we learned fairly early on that she has a checkered past and in fact spent time in prison and has no experience working as a housemaid or in childcare, is able to get a job in Amanda Seyfried and Brandon Sklenar's home, clean their home and look after their 7-year-old daughter.
Sort of. I would not say that she's tasked with a lot of childcare.
Pick up and drop off, playtime at the dollhouse.
Yeah.
She's doing stuff.
Right.
That's, as you know, entrusting your child to a stranger.
I agree.
It's a stretch. She gets this gig. It doesn't really make sense. We see that the Amanda Seyfried character is very complicated.
Erratic.
Very erratic. We learn roughly halfway through the film that she has been diagnosed and prescribed medication for schizophrenia. She has a fascinating meltdown early in the movie that is like a waving signpost that something is wrong here, where she blames Amanda Seyfried's character for throwing out PTA meeting notes.
Right.
And that leads to this like rageful explosion in the kitchen.
Yeah. And she's breaking dishes.
It's so fascinating that we're at the stage of our lives where Amanda Seyfried is playing the middle-aged mom.
Yeah.
I don't really have a comment about it. It's just like, I can't believe we got there. Like, we just got there. I don't know.
We're there.
We're there.
This whole year has just been a confirmation and reminder that we're there. She looks great.
She's beautiful. I mean, she's one of my favorites. I've talked about her many times. She was a guest on the show. I think she's really like a fun and interesting actor.
Yeah.
Really weird career, huge hits, huge bombs. Some movies that I think are incredibly cool and interesting and daring. And, you know, she's brilliant in Mank and First Reformed. And she's got this, you know, Mean Girls is iconic. She's kind of done everything.
Mamma Mia, which you still have not seen.
Still haven't seen those movies. I'm sure they're great. She sings, you know. She's in Les Mis.
Well, she's in this movie, and then she's also in Testament of Anne Lee, which comes out on Christmas.
Yes.
You know, so which is a very cool movie but weird.
Yes,
and she sings in it as well, and a great performance by her. But it is going to be that's a Searchlight release that they picked up after the festivals, and that'll be small. It's an awards run, if anything at all. We hope she gets in, but she might not. It's
going to be tough. This helps. And then, this actually helps.
Yeah, but then
she's the star of a movie that's a hit.
She's doing arty stuff about, you know, the Shaker movement.
Yep.
And then she's doing, you know, campy, big budget. I thought this was a Colleen Hoover adaptation, but it's not stuff.
And it's not like this is the first time she's done something like this. She's done Nicholas Sparks style movies. She's done this stuff all throughout her career.
She did the movie. She's in not the Hat movie. That's Emily Blunt, but the Justin Timberlake Time movie. In Time.
Yes. Which I think is on paper, an interesting idea for a sci-fi thriller that is a very bad film. I really think she is an interesting actor. She is incredible in the Elizabeth Holmes series. That's like one of the great performances of the century. And, you know, she doesn't look exactly like Elizabeth Holmes. It's a little bit of a transformation. There's a vocal intonation thing. So she has a lot of range and is a really interesting performer. This character feels very constructed. Doesn't really feel like a real person. Now, there's a reason for that. Because she is constructing a performance inside of her own home in the movie. But even still, it's not her best work, I would say. This is not the best material she's had to work with.
Well, I think that she's meeting the material where it is.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. Sydney Sweeney.
Very beautiful.
I've been defending Sydney Sweeney, right, in recent years. And saying, like, I think with the right material, she's a very good actor. She usually needs to be kind of more chaotic and shriekish and intense. And if you watch her in Immaculate or in Euphoria, she has a knack for, like, a kind of, like, amusing mania. And you'd think that this material would be really well suited to it.
Yeah.
And I did not think she was good in this movie at all.
No. I mean, she is very beautiful.
Yeah.
And they use that on purpose throughout.
Yeah, she's meant to be like a visual echo of Amanda Seyfried.
Right.
Because the character of Brendan Sklenar plays has a type.
Yes. When she gets one moment to kind of act out and she's breaking dishes. And I thought that she was funny breaking dishes.
That's Cassie from Euphoria.
Well,
that's what she's good at.
I know, but
I know.
She gets one moment and otherwise she's supposed to be sort of confused and muted and helpless and the like damsel in distress until she's not.
Yeah.
She doesn't have much to do.
I don't want to say she's miscast because one of the reasons why this movie is clearly working is like, frankly, this is like a sexy movie where she takes her clothes off.
Yeah.
You know, and like people just want to see that. And she is very artfully playing the bombshell game in terms of the parts that she picks.
Absolutely.
How she presents herself publicly. She's been entrenched in some controversies about her, the way that she presents and how she communicates about her beauty this year. I think this is a very smart play. And the movie is obviously working because there is like, you know, this is one step removed from Colleen Hoover. And I do want to ask you a little bit about like movies being made for women. Because even though I think, you know, partners on dates will enjoy some of the sexy stuff in this movie, it does seem to be a movie that is very much aimed at female audiences. Brandon Sklenar.
Yeah, I'm glad you want to talk about him.
I do want to talk about
him.
him.
So he's been ubiquitous.
Yes.
Speaking of Colleen Hoover, he was the other guy in It Ends With Us.
Yes.
He was in Drop, which I saw the trailer for many times, and which you didn't care for.
I watched it, and I will say this movie feels like that movie set us up to be wrong-footed in this movie. Because he's like a very nice guy in Drop.
Okay.
And he's very accommodating despite the crazy circumstances of Drop.
He's the nice guy in It Ends With Us, which I have a hard time pronouncing.
Yes.
I don't know what he's doing on 1923 besides being a Dutton.
I haven't seen the show, so I can't say.
I don't know whether he's good or bad, probably because, he's a white man on a Taylor Sheridan show. He's
very
complicated.
Handsome. He's Diesel.
So this is
he's
the
a
thing.
very modern, he's like a Fairty catalog version of handsomeness. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. No, I do, because I identify him as he is being marketed to me as like Taylor Sheridan, like Americana,
contemporary
Guy.
masculinity. Yes.
But like he is very different from like the Timothée Chalamets or the kind of artsy indie boys.
Yes.
Like he is just absolutely jacked. There's one shot of his bicep early on that I like recoiled from. I was like very grossed out by, because it's not historically my type.
That's not your thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a little more wire.
As previously discussed on the Marty Supreme episode, that is, I'm just
like a narrow boy from New York. Yeah.
So, and because of the roles that he's taken, and I can feel that he's being marketed to someone with different tastes than me as like, this is your new guy. He's always been like a bit blurry face. I'm just like, oh, sure, that guy. Like
he's always got 72% of a beard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it's just, he's
I say this
muscular.
as somebody with like 48% of a beard right now. Like he is.
I guess that he does. He's like soft muscle and is supposed to be, the first half of the movie makes a big deal of like, oh, he's so handsome. And it's like, what a big smile, great smile. And all the moms are, fixated on him. And, it feels like it's kind of being forced on me. And I will say that like halfway through the movie, I was finally like, okay, he is attractive. Like I see it.
You relented. Yeah.
I did. And it was like the movie's like kind of insistence, but I was finally like, I don't know if I'll always have a little bit of face blindness towards him, but like I get it.
He's a thing now.
Yeah.
I mean, this is 3 big studio movies in a row in which he is the male lead effectively. I don't think he's up for this role. I don't think he's up for this part.
It's not a part. Like, what is it?
The turn, I just don't. I mean, it's a failure of the writing too. But I just did not buy him. I did not buy it. We can talk about it right now if you'd like.
Yeah.
But so, Sklenar's character does in fact kind of, I guess, fall in love with / pursue an affair with Sydney Sweeney's character. The Amanda Seyfried's character is taking her daughter up to camp one weekend. So they end up having a tryst together. They go to a show and then they have dinner together and then they get a hotel room.
Was
and
that
then
the
they sleep
21
together.
Club?
I don't know. I've never been to the 21 Club. And because Sydney Sweeney's character is using a cell phone that has been provided to her by her employer knows everything that she's doing.
Right.
The jig is up. We learn that she's having an affair. There's going to be a big meltdown and a fight. Eventually, Brandon Sklenar's character kicks Amanda Seyfried out of the house.
Yeah.
Says, this relationship is over. I'm with this gal now.
And then you get the Gone Girl twist. And it cuts to Amanda Seyfried in the hotel room just as it cuts like a hard cut in Gone Girl to Rosamund Pike in the car being like, It
actually starts with Amanda Seyfried laughing in the car.
Yeah.
In a similar fashion before delivering the cool girl speech and explaining the movie to us. Everything that we've seen for the first hour and 10 minutes of this movie is not what it seems. In fact, I was a young girl who slept with a college professor and got pregnant, and my legal career got derailed, and I was forced to become a paralegal. And I have, daycare taking care of my baby, and the milk is leaking from my breasts while I deliver files to a meeting.
Actually, some of this is shown. It sounds even crazier when you're doing it.
I'm saying it out loud because it's
absurd.
It
is absurd, but they show her.
Yes.
in the office.
But she enters an office.
She's not just like, my boobs were leaking, you know?
No, they show it to us, which is fine.
Which I think was brave. It's like,
yes, it was very brave. Wear your jacket.
You don't know what it's like.
Of course I don't.
It was really fucked up.
I'm not saying it isn't.
You're just like,
it being like a critical plot device in this movie is nonsense. Anyway, this guy, Brandon Sklenar, is a client at this law firm, and he sees this woman who's walked in with these leaking breasts, and he feels bad for her because she's scolded by her employer, by her boss.
Yeah.
And they meet cute, and they fall in love. They sleep together in 6 days. They're engaged in 6 weeks.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, she's moving into this wealthy guy's home, and she's become a part of his world.
Right.
However,
she yada yadas the fiance for whom the house was built.
Yes.
But she never asked any questions.
Yes.
Because she just figured it was her loss.
What does this guy like to do? Explain this to me. Why did he lose this previous relationship? What is his kink?
Well, this is the problem. His kink is, I guess, dominating and then subjugating vulnerable women. So he looks out for, like, quote unquote damsels in distress, endears himself to them, and then, you know, controls them and makes them act like his, like, perfect doll in the dollhouse. He has a real problem with your roots that are showing when your hair is dyed. He has a real problem with I can't remember what's in the
dental care.
Oh, sure. That's
Smiles
right.
are very important to him. He obviously has been pathologized by his mother, who is a very controlling, specific kind of person. Her roots are never showing. Elizabeth Perkins' character. Her teeth are always pearly white.
Right.
She also clearly dominated him as a young child.
Yes.
And so he has brought this psychology to all of his relationships with women. So he does terrible things where he will lock women in rooms and force them to pull their hair out to punish them for not properly dyeing their hair. I guess this is like something that could happen. I'm just kind of like,
no,
I don't know
it's not well developed.
It's like, it just doesn't hit, you know? Like sometimes you make a choice in a story and the storyline just does not hit. And it just feels silly. And I was watching it and I was just like, this just feels atonal from the rest of the movie. And it isn't like exciting or interesting. It doesn't really tell us anything. It's just a plot device.
Right. I mean, it also just, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Like the punishment is first you're locked in an attic and you have to pull out 100 hairs, which does seem painful, but like
you could do it.
If I had to then get out of the closet and get out of that house,
right?
But instead she doesn't, and which again I think I don't want to make light of like domestic abuse and the situations, and it like can be hard to leave, but the plot line of then suddenly she's just like in an asylum because he's called the cops on her for something. It happens very fast.
I thought confusingly told.
Yes.
The ways in which she endangered her child.
None of it really.
It's all very messy. And I haven't read the book, and I think that, the book's a bestseller. People really like that book. It just feels, I found the plotting to be really junky in the last 30 minutes of just like trying to move very quickly through like, here's why this happened.
Right.
And you're like, well, why did we spend 75 minutes building to this? Like, could this film have been 30 minutes shorter, perhaps? Certainly felt like it.
Yes.
There's a lot of like stewing in what is really going on here in the first half of this movie that I think actually wounds the big reveal, because it feels like we've been waiting too long for it to be explained to us.
Right. And then the other half of the reveal is so that to escape with her daughter, Amanda Seyfried's character has hired Sydney Sweeney on purpose to replace her so that then she can get out of the house.
Yes.
And be free. And so she is sacrificing Sydney Sweeney. But then her daughter, who is a character that is not at all developed, shows a moment of conscience, and it's like, don't we need to help her? The Sydney Sweeney housemaid character, so they go back.
And around the same time, we get the dual explication of Sydney Sweeney's character, who went to prison for 10 years for murder because she discovered her college roommate being raped.
Right.
And she bashed the rapist over the head with some sort of blunt object and killed him. And then for some reason, maybe out of shame, her roommate denied what had transpired, which then led to the imprisonment of her roommate, Sydney Sweeney.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying it can happen.
Yeah.
But it was like, so it's one of those things where it was just like, these two women have done nothing wrong. They have been completely victimized. And this guy is an insane maniac.
Right.
But only in these very small moments in which we see it. Again, it happens. But the way that the information is delivered and the characterization of these two people, these two women, is not very strong through the first hour of the movie. We spend a lot of time being like, why are they like that? And not a lot of clarity. And then this rush to give it all away in the final stages of the movie, I think makes the movie feel pretty incoherent.
Yes. And then the movie tries to like add on, you know, an avenging plot line for the Sydney Sweeney character, where ultimately they do get rid of Brandon Sklenar. And I think, again, it is technically Sydney Sweeney who delivers the fatal push. But Amanda Seyfried is willing to take the fall. And then a woman cop is like, oh, it just so happens that my sister was the fiance that you mentioned once in narration like an hour ago. And she never came back the same. So I'm not going to investigate this. And then the last scene is Sydney Sweeney going to interview for another housemaid job. And it's suggested that she was recommended to another woman who is like in a dangerous household and experiencing abuse.
Yeah.
And so it's like now she's the Avenger, which
the housemaid will kill again. Just big post-credits Marvel sequence energy to that scene. Where it was like, so this is her job now? To like become the housemaid for people so she can kill husbands?
I don't know.
Is that like empowering? What does that even mean?
I don't know. And there is like a real strain in like women's entertainment and women's fiction right now, which this is adapted from. And Colleen Hoover is a part of this, of like very dark situations that are sort of resolved. And the woman in question is in danger and then finds some sort of like peace or resolution or freedom, or like there is some improvement.
Yes. But
it's not what anyone would like write out for themselves, you know? Like it's not really like a happy ending, and it always feels like the work of fiction is like marinating and enjoying the abuse or the dark aspects of it a little bit more than you would want.
I was tough on Is This Thing On, which is kind of like the flip side of the coin of this movie. Where, like, that's a movie about the challenge of modern relationships and how difficult it can be to kind of communicate and be in a partnership and still be your own person, right? I like that idea for that movie. I don't really think the way it explores it is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
But I don't think that this trend is good either. Not that I have to be the arbiter of how we should portray relationships in movies, but this, like, you know, you must meet the black magic with dark vengeance is like, I'm not, what does that say about where we are in terms of what stories are exciting to us, and kind of like, what is that manifesting about what's going on socially? I don't know. I'm not like catastrophizing it, but it's weird.
It's discomforting. And it's like, I don't think that you or I want to see movies that are just aspirational or like, here is how you should behave. And I think I at least get a little frustrated with this strain of criticism that it's like, well, that was a bad person or they made a bad decision, and thus like I can't like this movie, because I'm not looking for, you know, like a morality play every time I go to the films. But it is weird that this is what is so appealing, is just that is something. I mean, like in the end, the bad guy dies violently and the women have like been tortured, but I guess are setting out on new lives. So I guess that's good, but I would have preferred to just not have anyone be tortured.
I mean, everyone's life has been destroyed.
Yeah.
Like, the idea that this is like inspiring in some way is absurd.
I don't know.
I think if we accept it on its terms of it's camp fun,
I
can get on board with that. And I don't want to ruin people's enjoyment of the movie. And definitely, I was waiting to find out what was going to happen. So I was engaged in the movie. I can't pretend like I wasn't engaged.
I kept trying to guess. I was like, is this schizophrenia? Is there something else going on? I thought there were two Amanda Seyfrieds. I did also wonder if there was like something, you know, there's a room in the attic that's like played very dramatically. And so I was like, is this going to be a Jane Eyre thing where there's like another crazy one in the attic, but she gets out sometime?
Both of those would have been interesting.
You know?
Or two Amanda Seyfrieds, like same woman, split personality, like a Raising Cain situation.
No,
Or just
I
like
thought,
twins?
I thought that they were twins. Yeah.
All three would have been interesting.
Mhm. Yeah.
We didn't get that.
Okay.
Long Island, man.
I
Shit's
just have to
crazy.
say that this soundtrack just absolutely made me die laughing multiple times.
I did catch the Since You've Been Gone drop.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I definitely caught Blue Bayou.
absolutely. Barry Lyndon plays a small but important role in this
Thank
film.
you. I forgot. I mean, I guess that this movie is like also like weird Cineboys should be taken down a
Yeah,
peg.
yeah.
I guess I'm not sure what that take was.
But,
Like,
like, they-
in what world is Brendan Sklenar really into Barry Lyndon?
The two pop cultural artifacts that Brendan Sklenar's character are passionate about,
Mhm.
according to the Housemaid, it's Barry Lyndon and classic episodes of Family Feud. And no, I'm sorry, there's another one. And then there's like a musical that's a hit that is like maybe like Hamilton, but it's not. It's just sort of implied that it's like Hamilton, and it's hard to get tickets to.
This is a fake movie.
There's a Renee Rapp drop in this that I laughed really hard at. I think it's like during their sex scene,
Didn't pick it up.
and then there was the like one of the bad Taylor Swift songs over the credits.
Oh, an actual Taylor Swift song?
Yeah.
Didn't clock that. Not
Mhm.
aware of that.
Okay.
I did ask you, what are movies for female audiences
Yeah.
right now?
They're not. It's not ideal.
What are they? Tell us what you wrote down.
Well, so I wrote down the theatrical releases that I like that have like worked that reflect what people are going to the cinema to see.
Mhm.
And these are on varying scales of
Mhm.
success, right? But Wicked for Good, Materialists,
Mhm.
Regretting You, and Freakier Friday.
Yes.
So that's your IP. That's your like indie fake out rom-com. That's your Colleen Hoover adaptation. And that's your nostalgia sequel play. So in some ways, they're the same things that are working for men, but, just with girls in them instead. But then the thing that's really working, and then I just wrote down like 4,000 streaming movies, okay? Because
Mhm.
Back in Action, You're Cordially Invited, Kind of Pregnant, Another Simple Favor, The Woman in Cabin 10, which I did watch half of. I have no self-respect. That's the Ruth Ware adaptation starring Keira Knightley.
Yes. I watched the first hour as well, and
Yeah.
then Eileen continued watching it.
Yeah.
And she was not a fan, but was so glad that she watched it,
Okay.
which is the inverse of how I felt. No, I didn't feel anything good about it.
Um,
Did not even need to stick around for the twist.
I was like Keira Knightley and Guy Pearce like on a cruise ship. Like, surely I can find something
on paper, sure.
No. And then I wrote down like all the holiday bullshit, which is just, it's like not my bag,
Yes.
Yes. Including Oh, What Fun and Their Wallpaper. That stars Michelle Pfeiffer and is directed by Michael Showalter. And I didn't think it was very good. But they've put all of our movies about people navigating relationships, aging, and home
Mhm.
design onto streaming. And then they spend less money on all of it. And most people just watch them there and don't go to the theaters. And it's depressing.
When Amanda Seyfried was on the pod, she zoomed in during COVID from a
Mhm.
barn.
Mhm.
I hope this movie buys her another barn.
Yeah, she did a great Architectural Digest tour of her New York apartment. A lot of ingenious storage solutions there.
Exciting.
Yeah, I also really liked her Vogue Get Ready With Me. So
Cool.
she's good at internet content, and I hope that she gets to keep doing as much as she wants. She gave an interview recently where she said she wasn't allowed to do Botox for Ann Lee, and that was a major sacrifice, but now she's back. So I hope she's doing whatever she wants. She looks great.
Let's talk about Anaconda.
Okay.
Housemaid's getting the fuck delineation for me, just so you know. For obvious reasons. For reasons that are not hard to understand. Anaconda. Directed by Tom Gormican.
Mm-hmm.
Written by Gormican and Kevin Edden. It stars
Mhm.
Paul Rudd, Jack Black, Steve Zahn, Tendiwe Newton, Daniela Melchior, and Sultan Mello.
Yes.
Here's the plot of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Best friends Griff and Doug have always dreamed of remaking their all-time favorite movie, Anaconda.
Mm-hmm.
When a midlife crisis pushes them to finally go for it, they assemble a crew and head deep into the jungles of the Amazon to start filming. However, life soon imitates art when a gigantic anaconda with a thirst for blood starts hunting them down.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think of Anaconda?
We saw it together.
We did.
I
You insisted.
did, yeah, because there's nothing more depressing than going to the mall on December 17th by yourself to see Anaconda. Yeah. It's just really not. It's not how this movie was intended to be seen.
It's not.
I did chuckle a couple times.
I certainly did as well.
And we have to say that up front before saying that this is just a cynical, depressing exercise in IP reinvention, sort of.
I'd like to try to get to the bottom of it, okay? Because I also laughed pretty hard about 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty good hit ratio for comedies for me in the 2020s.
Well, but I mean, that's also just indicative of where we're going. I laughed less than you because Jack Black is black licorice to me.
Right. Okay. So if you don't like Jack Black, you're not going to like this movie.
So
that goes without saying.
But when Paul Rudd was doing stuff.
Well, I have a couple of problems with it.
Okay.
It is a metatextual joke, right? The metatextual joke is that Hollywood is only interested in IP. You can't get anything made these days unless you have access to that IP. If you look at the year-end box office, everything is based on something unless you're weapons or sinners. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
The film we just talked about is based on a novel that people know. The movie knows this. It's making fun of that idea, but also participating in that idea and trying to have its cake and eat it too.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it works. Sometimes there's a cleverness, or at least like the presumption of cleverness in the way that the movie is constructed that is fun. However, like it's the same joke 40 times. And you can only make it so many times before you lose interest in it. And I lost interest in the movie pretty quickly.
Yes.
There's a couple of things about it that I found really hard to stomach that are not really a big deal, but in my head, I just couldn't get over. Specifically, the movie Anaconda, which is not good, but is fun.
Yeah.
And is like a relic of our youth and was a big hit at the time, or a modest hit at the time, and has a very memorable Jon Voight performance that is discussed frequently in the movie. Ice Cube, Jennifer Lopez, Eric Stoltz, all these people are cited in the film. Just your classic, like mid-tier creature feature from Hollywood. It has a long tradition of movies like that. And the characters in this movie apparently loved this movie when they were kids. Anaconda was released in 1997, 2 years after Clueless, which Paul Rudd starred in.
Yeah.
Paul Rudd is 56 years old. Jack Black is 56 years old.
Mm-hmm.
They're not at midlife crisis age. They're in their mid-50s.
Mm-hmm.
I know this. I've been spent the last 30 years with Jack Black and Paul Rudd in movies. I like them both a lot. I think they're both super talented. Why does this movie not star 2 people in their early 40s?
This is your problem.
I mean, it's just one very obvious thing that's just like, I just can't get my head around this movie. I'm like, Jack Black has like a 10-year-old child?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
maybe he does, but like because the movie orients itself around this quartet of friends who made movies when they were teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were inspired by the Hollywood blockbusters of their time. And they really wanted to make something. Life got in the way. Jack Black stayed in Buffalo and he makes wedding videos and he's stuck. Paul Rudd moved out to California to try to make it as an actor. And it didn't really shake out the way that he wanted to, despite that great 4-episode run on SWAT. Like, you know, life happens and it's tough. And the movie wants to be this kind of big, chill-esque, sentimental, like, what happened to us, man? And it also wants to be this rollicking, funny, metatextual, like The Player, but for IP comedy film. And it's neither because it's both are incoherent together. They don't mix. It's kind of stupid. Everyone's trying. And it's not awful or anything. Like, it's not a fiasco.
I mean, it's fake, but, you know, this is part of your winking action genre that doesn't always work, but there's also like a winking comedy to it. I mean, there is a winking comedy to it, and there is just something unfelt and a little, you know, when you're watching behind the scenes footage, like anything that is about how comedy gets made, and they keep like just going and going and going and going and going. And you know, they'll find the joke and eventually like find the endpoint. But the making of the comedy involves just please stop often. And this is a real, like, no one told anyone to stop. And they had one joke and it just kept going and going and going and going and going. And it was kind of clever for 2 seconds. And then it's supposed to be a feature length film with one joke.
Action comedy is also really hard.
Yeah.
Because there has to be a lot of action. And if the action is just okay, and the action in this movie is just okay, then, and the laughs are not there in the action sequences, which they are a little bit, but not enough, then you're just kind of watching another noisy, explosion-filled gun violence movie that has a joke that is like, you don't really buy. And I I thought The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent was better than this movie. That was Gormican's last film, is a film about Nicolas Cage as Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
And him being kind of like utilized, his fame and success being utilized as a prop and a kind of metatextual joke in that movie. I think part of the reason that movie works is that him and Pedro Pascal have really good chemistry together and they're pretty funny. I thought that script was smarter than this one. This one, I can't help but think about the executives being like, yeah, we could make this. We could get this one over the line.
I mean, they say Sony so many times. Like there is an actual Sony like boat joke that comes in. It's really, really, it's very inside baseball.
Isn't this a really weird movie to release at Christmas? Isn't this a summer movie?
I guess so. I mean, people like Jack Black, I guess. I don't know. The holiday right into Anaconda. I mean, God bless you if that's how you're spending your holidays.
Maybe it was to get distance between Minecraft rather than release this in August. This just feels like August 2nd is when this movie should come out, not on Christmas.
Yeah.
I guess there's a little bit of counter programming up against whatever else is out there in the world, but I'm a little bit mystified. Do not understand Steve Zahn and Tindy Newton in this movie.
No, they don't get to do anything.
They are really like really, really, really supporting players. I thought Selton Mello was pretty funny as the Snake Wrangler.
Yes.
Daniela Melchior. She's supposed to be. I thought she was French. Is she Spanish? They're in South America.
They're in Brazil, right?
Yeah.
So, and I thought that they were infiltrating, or not infiltrating, but they find themselves in the
Portuguese. That explains it.
Okay, in the middle of a gold mining.
Apologize to Daniela Melchior.
I felt this plotline was insulting and in its lack of depth.
Very thin. Yeah, I agree. Movie is not a success.
No.
This would be my kill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a complete waste of time, but
yeah.
If we had gone alone, to your point, it would have been disappointing.
We would have been angry.
Exiting the Grove and seeing all those happy families. The wondrous winter wonderland that takes place at the Grove every year. And I would exit the theater if I was by myself, and I would think for like 7 minutes, should I try to go get a seat at the bar at the Cheesecake Factory? Because I need to eat something, and it would have been 9 straight hours since I'd eaten something.
Yeah.
And then I would decide, the line is too long, or I'm not going to wait for a space to open up.
What would you order if you sat at the bar at the Cheesecake Factory by yourself?
Louisiana chicken pasta.
Okay, great. Just going to the absolute
which is
classics.
like 38,000 calories.
Yeah.
And it's honestly so good.
When we went to Cheesecake Factory after Santa, I got the Thai lettuce wraps.
Oh yeah, those are good.
And then we also got like mozzarella sticks and pot stickers. Really just, the classic experience.
We're not even up to the last movie yet. We got to get to it quickly. But I just want to let you know I'm going to drink so much alcohol over the break.
Me too.
I have cut out
so
alcohol so much from my life because we record all the time, and I just don't ever want to be hungover when we're recording. I find it very hard to do the show effectively when I'm like either extremely tired or my head hurts. Makes sense?
Yeah.
So I just don't drink any. Like I was very comfortably a 3 cocktail person, and now that never happens. I'm going fucking hard this week.
Listen, I've got a date tonight at the Houston's bar with my husband.
Great.
There are cocktail themes for both Christmas Eve and Christmas at my house, just so you know.
Very exciting.
Yeah, I've planned out the drinking menu. Okay. I've planned out the dessert menu, the regular menu too. No, I'm excited about that. I do think we would have had more fun had we been drinking for either of these movies. I know, that was the
original idea, and then it was like, we got a pod tomorrow, we got a pod on Friday,
and we
couldn't figure out. Violin playing for podcasters.
Our version. Sorry, Jack, you were already traveling when I came up with the concept for the big picture holiday party, which was seeing the Housemaid at the iPic at 3 p.m. and getting hammered. But we couldn't make that work.
Let's do it in January. There will be something bad that we can go see.
Okay, that's great. So you're taking
Primate.
What?
Right?
I think I'm going to a screening. I do want to. What? They moved the date on the new Colleen Hoover movie with Micah Monroe.
It's in March now. Yeah, I just saw that.
Too far. Okay.
We'll figure it out. So you're taking all the drinking into January?
Probably not.
Okay.
Once we start recording again, I'll stop.
I know it's hard because then you don't want to have the face bloat. Yeah.
I don't care about that. I don't care about how I look. I literally care about how I feel. And hangovers are getting harder as I get older.
I mean, you don't have to tell me about that. The post-holiday party one was absolutely brutal.
Mercy, that's the one. Mercy.
That's it. That's it.
Oh, I was pretty drunk when we saw that trailer at CinemaCon.
Chris
So
Pratt in a gamer chair being on trial with Rebecca Ferguson judge.
Only on FaceTime. Yeah, let's do it.
That's perfect.
Okay, great.
Oh, I'm fired up for that. Last movie, Song Sung Blue.
Yeah.
Okay.
So by default, this is what we're marrying,
Yes.
which I understand, but also I'll just say this film took a turn
Maybe,
that I didn't really
Maybe
expect.
it wouldn't be the happiest marriage.
In the end, there is something beautiful in it. It's
Yes.
an honest portrait of marriage and also, spoiler alert, amputation,
Yes.
which I just did not see coming.
I
didn't know the $1 Million Baby was going to be a part of this.
It's a good point. It is a similar move. I didn't know really anything about this movie sitting down, and I'll be honest, I was dreading it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to watch it. I don't have a huge relationship to Neil Diamond. I do quite like Hugh Jackman.
I was gonna, as I was watching it,
pretty consistently winning in everything he does.
You have a real soft spot for Hugh Jackman.
I do.
I don't dislike him, but you come out of every Hugh Jackman movie and you're kind of like, hey, Hugh Jackman.
I think I forget, and then I sit down and I'm like, God, he's really giving it his all. Like, I just love how much he cares and is trying, and he's he really, in the opening segments of this movie, where he is just immediately singing with an acoustic guitar and Neil Diamond song.
Great opening.
Yeah, he's in an AA meeting and he is.
But you don't know
you don't
immediately.
realize it.
Yeah, and then it cuts to it,
Yes.
and it's just. I loved it.
Yeah, the first hour of this movie has real charm, as it's about these two people who are they're kind of like celebrity impersonators who sing at state fairs and carnivals, and Kate Hudson is a Patsy Cline impersonator. Hugh Jackman sometimes works as Elvis, sometimes works as someone named Lightning, who is like his own kind of concoction.
Right.
And he has this abiding affection for Neil Diamond. Hudson's character and Jackman's character meet at one of these fairs. They fall in love very quickly and they form a band. And their band, which is a Neil Diamond tribute band, a Neil Diamond experience, becomes like relatively successful in their home state of, remind me, is it
Wisconsin?
Wisconsin, thank you. And they're kind of the toast of Milwaukee, and they're having some success, and we see a lot of great performances of the two of them singing. Kate Hudson can sing. She just released her first album in the last year.
Sure.
Even though we've known that she can sing for some time. And
talk about having all Fabletics, singing career, acting career.
she is a one of one. We can talk about her briefly as well. But they're really performing in this movie together and singing these songs. And I have a relationship with some of these songs, but not all of them. So I didn't feel like I didn't have that experience that you have when you're watching a musician's biopic, where you're like, okay, and now it's time for the song Rocket Man in the film Rocket Man. Like I just don't,
They even make a running joke about how they don't want to do Sweet Caroline, and
which is clever.
Yeah, the Hugh Jackman character is like, no, there's so much more.
Yes.
It's so there is still that music biopic feeling I like of when they when they perform a song that you recognize. You're like, oh, they're doing it, but they've constructed it in a way that it doesn't feel quite as rote.
I agree. I mean, like, and a song like Suleiman, like that's not a song I know at all, really. And to see Jackman's character have such a commitment and dedication to like defending sincerely something that he loves, it's something that I try to do. I just like that in a character. I think he's a very cool representation of a very specific kind of person. Yeah. The movie, though, as you said, takes a very severe turn where the Kate Hudson character, who is a single mom with two kids, she falls in love with this guy, Mike, and they move in together and they start this band. And then a car drives up on their lawn and hits her, and she's in a severe accident and has her leg amputated. And she very understandably slips into a depression and becomes addicted to medication that she's been prescribed to cope with the pain and anxiety of this loss. And the movie becomes more like a redemption drama about recovery and about sticking together and what really matters. And then it takes another hard turn in terms of what happens to the Mike character and his struggles with a heart condition and his ability to balance his performance life, which means everything to him, with his physical struggles. And the movie becomes very severe and very melodramatic. I think pretty knowingly. I don't think it's doing anything that it like doesn't understand what it's doing, but it is a real record scratch moment. Yeah. That never relents, right? Like,
and it is going from these exuberant and like well performed, but pretty sunny performances of these songs, and they spend a lot of time on them.
Yes.
To oh, and now something absolutely terrible has happened.
Yeah, I liked it in the way that like The Housemaid is a movie that is only about opulence.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever it's trying to show us like what Sydney Sweeney's hard scrabble life is, where she sleeps in her car, you're like, this is complete nonsense.
Yeah.
This is really a movie about being lower middle class in the middle of the country.
Yeah.
Like then, and like if something like this happens to you, what are you going to do? How are you going to get out of it? How are you going to survive? If you lose your primary income, what happens?
Right.
Like, what do you do?
Right.
I think it's like pretty sincere about looking at that. That's pretty consistent through a lot of Brewer's movies. Hustle and Flow is also a movie about like basically being in economic straits and then having to find a way to create your way out of it. So it's something that obviously interests him.
It does. It's totally about that because it stars Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson, and they are also given like all of these moments, which are true to the character, which we should say is based on a true story.
Yes,
adapted from a documentary. That they get all these glowing performance moments, and then the rest of the time it's like a little bit Kate Hudson in Midwestern drag. And she is doing the accent. And it's not that she's doing a bad job.
Actually, I think she's doing a good accent, but it's kind of a campy performance.
Right, exactly. You are aware that it is Kate Hudson wearing like these unflattering sweaters and haircut and what have you. But the movie,
and she's like letting her belly roll over a little bit. She's like doing some things that you wouldn't see a star like this do.
I don't think that's a real belly, but yes.
A false belly. What if she just gained 10 pounds that week?
Yeah, that's totally how it works. So I was thinking a lot about The Eyes of Tammy Faye when watching this.
Interesting.
And I like this a lot better than The Eyes of Tammy Faye.
I do too.
And because it is an inventive, it's not it is a biopic, but not of the musicians, of other people. So it is taking that genre and doing something more interesting with it. I think it's a bummer that that's what Jessica Chastain won for, and that this probably won't. I don't know if I think Kate Hudson should win an Oscar for this, but
and she's nominated for a Globe, right?
Yeah, but this also felt to me very vintage, like 20 years ago Oscars bait.
It does. And 20 years ago, Hustle and Flow came out, and Craig Brewer won an Academy Award in part for working on that movie. So I there is a conventionality to it. Though,
I didn't say that in a bad way.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, because there are versions of this that don't really work. I did find this comforting as a bit of a throwback.
Mm-hmm.
I think in part I'm just so worn down, as listeners of the show know, by the traditional music biopic.
Totally.
But I love music, and I love hearing music performed loud, and those are the best parts of those movies in the first place. So like getting even a little interested in Neil Diamond's music for me was cool. That was a good takeaway.
Yeah.
And then, Jackman, as you said, is just a star I like being around, and I think is a really fine actor. Kate Hudson, I don't usually think of as a very good actress. I think she's a good star.
Yeah.
I think she's very good on screen and carries weight. I never thought she had the same depth as her mom. I always thought her mom had like a screen persona that she was always really good at undercutting very cleverly. Kate Hudson, I never really felt like there was the second tier. This is her trying to go to a second level.
Yeah.
Sometimes she gets there. I agree with you. Sometimes she doesn't always get there.
Right, it's just she's burdened with that character's arc is true, but surprising and sort of like, wait, what?
It's rough.
There is the $1 million baby twist. I'm just like, excuse me?
Yeah, literally waking up in the hospital.
Yeah, what's happening now?
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of movie. It's asking a lot. It's a bit, it's both grounded and absurd at the same time.
Yeah.
And you kind of got to get your head around that. But I was charmed.
I wasn't uncharmed.
Okay.
I really did like the performances. And I do, and I like that it is a new way of getting these types of musical performances on screen, because watching the biopic version of stuff is just unrewarding at this point.
Yeah, I don't think I would be excited about the pure Neil Diamond biopic.
Yeah.
Quick final question for you about this. Eddie Vedder?
Yeah. He's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all based on a true story.
That's nice.
Yeah. Eddie Vedder, you're a fan?
Yeah. Listen, I was there.
Favorite Pearl Jam album?
Vitology? Yeah.
Not for me.
Okay.
No Code?
Wow. Okay. That's fine.
10.
Well, sure. Yeah.
Is it Alive that hits in this movie? I can't remember what the Pearl Jam needle drop is. It's a first album needle drop.
Remember the Pearl Jam
it might be Alive
cover of Last Kiss that came out like when we were in high school? Yeah. I've listened to that upwards of 200 times.
Yeah.
What was that about?
It was I believe a charity recording.
No, I know. Like what? But why did I become so obsessed with that? Yeah.
I can tell you from New York, they played it on Z100 nonstop.
I mean, I think they did in Atlanta too, but
I think it was because it was a crossover song for grunge rock.
Okay.
Where it was not like a pure rock station song because it had that like kind of 50s doo-wop-y quality to the song construction. So it was like Eddie Vedder doing a pure heartthrob song.
Right.
And those stations were kind of confused about what to do with popular music when CNC Music Factory and Michael Jackson went out and Kurt Cobain and Smashing Pumpkins came in. So this was a way to kind of get a little bit of that before like the Dave Matthews Bands of the world came along and kind of like gave them new ballast to make rock pop.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that extended answer.
Not bad, right? I think that was pretty legitimate. I used to be a music writer.
I know.
I've given this period a lot of thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, fuck, marry, kill, it's a dangerous game. You got to be careful out there. You never know what you could contract from a schizophrenic wife in a beautiful townhouse in Great Neck.
That's true. I do think that the Song Sung Blue people had a lovely marriage. It had its ups and its downs.
Yeah.
I hope none of that happens to me, but except for the love and happiness.
Do you think that you and I could do well in a musical duo?
Who would we be?
Who would we perform as?
Yeah.
Captain and Tennille is right there.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure, I'm on keyboard. Yeah.
Yeah, you're on keyboard.
Okay.
I don't know. Let's give it some thought. Wings?
Yeah. Oh, that's rude to me.
What do you mean? Linda is an icon.
Sure, but I can sing better than that.
That's not very nice. I love Wings. Wings
I do too, but let's be real. It's not like people were supportive of her.
All right. Well, you think about it.
Okay.
Whoever you want to be.
Okay.
I'm going to go talk to Craig Brewer, okay?
Okay.
All right, let's go to my conversation with him right now. Well, for the first time on this show, Craig Brewer, welcome. Thank you for being here. Noted
Thank you for having me.
Filmmaker, Mets fan, among other things. We have a lot to discuss. Since you haven't been on the show and you've been making movies for this entire century, I was hoping you could tell me just a little bit about yourself and getting into the game for anybody who doesn't really know. Because you've had a very successful career, but I don't know if as many people know your background in filmmaking.
Yeah, I guess my filmmaking career started here in Memphis, Tennessee. I was kind of a guy. I didn't go to film school or anything. I just learned filmmaking really from books that I bought at Barnes and Noble. When I was working there, I had a 35% discount, and it was the 90s, and there was like a lot of books on filmmaking during the 90s. Seems like all the filmmakers started writing their books, like Robert Rodriguez, and there was even a great book that Sidney Lumet making movies, and so that's kind of how I did it. And I came from the theater a lot. I wrote a lot and directed theater a lot of my life. But really, it was kind of like a big transformation, really, here in Memphis. My father passed away kind of unexpectedly, and I got about $20,000 of inheritance. And he had read the script that I wrote. It was called The Poor and Hungry, and it was about car thieves here in Memphis. We have a car theft problem here in Memphis, and it was about like a car thief who falls in love with one of his victims, who was a cello player. So music was like a big part of it, and I went out and got a digital camera from a pawn shop, and I bought a Sennheiser mic, had a crew of 2. I was one of them, and made this movie, and it played in my local theater for a good 6 weeks, 6-week run. And it was like the big movie to see. And I made back my money, and that was the movie that Stephanie Elaine and John Singleton saw. And I had a sequel ready to go. It was I was in an ampersand time in my life where I was like, so there was Poor and Hungry, and this one was called Hustle and Flow, and it was kind of in the same world, same like strip club, pawn shop, chop shop type of Memphis underworld, and then John decided, after we went everywhere with Hustle and Flow, that he was going to have to finance it himself. And so he put his house up for collateral. Stephanie put her house up for collateral. I was sleeping on couches for like 4 years in Hollywood, flying back and forth from Memphis to Los Angeles. And finally we got going here in Memphis with Hustle and Flow. And then Hustle and Flow happened, and my life kind of changed. But up until then, I was writing in bars and, trying my best to kind of figure out a way to get into it all. But it really took me living in Memphis to kind of figure myself out a little bit. I had to kind of struggle to figure it out, and that's kind of how I got in. And then Hustle and Flow led to Black Snake Moan, and other movies. I lived in that Paramount world for a while. After Hustle and Flow, and eventually moved on to other films.
I appreciate you sharing the story in that way because it's really inspiring, and it is increasingly unusual, I think, to come up in that very specific way of basically making regional cinema and being able to transfer something about where you're from to national audiences and getting like buy-in from the business, the system, and having people who believe in you. And the strain of music obviously runs through all your films. Like, can you speak about it coherently at this point? Like, why music is plays such a profound role in the films that you decide to do?
Well, I think that what it was is that there was this. I mean, there really was kind of like an education that I had here in Memphis. There was a time where all I did was just buy books on Memphis music. I'd learn everything I could about B.B. King. I learned everything I could about Sam Phillips, who kind of discovered Elvis and Howlin' Wolf and Johnny Cash and also Big Star, which is a kind of a very, a famous band, but not incredibly famous. But all of these people were around me, and I could have like really good connections with them. And I found that it was just something that I had already like really responded to because, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about this lately, but I really do think it was kind of special to grow up with being a young teen in the 80s, because I'm really now looking back on that time where MTV had just started, and movies had a music component to it that seemed very unique now looking back on it. Like, I mean, I know I could look at like Footloose and Purple Rain and all of those movies, but I mean, even just, movie Working Girl, had a very a specific theme, that Carly Simon did, and even Breakfast Club. All of John Hughes movies kind of had this music part of it, but it didn't stop there, because you couldn't watch the movie over and over again like you could today. So you went out and you bought the soundtrack, and you kind of experienced that movie again just through the music. And I just think in my adult life, when I started like really studying blues and studying rock and roll, but also studying how the producers worked, it really kind of informed a lot of how I direct, and I'm not talking about like camera movements necessarily. I'm talking more about like editorial rhythms, but I'm also talking about like how to deal with actors. I would see producers work with musicians, and they were trying to kind of like capture something in the room. They were trying to capture something kind of honest and real, but somewhat goosed. And that always kind of like appealed to me, because I felt like a lot of the plays that I was really into, Tennessee Williams and August Wilson, all of these playwrights always had kind of like a little bit of a almost like an audacity to it. They just kind of pushed it a little bit. And I just found a kind of a rhythm with it. And I'm especially on this last movie, it's been fun to kind of, as now being in my 50s, kind of looking back a little bit more and kind of going like, what's all this about? It's interesting.
Yeah, it strikes me just going back and looking at some of the films. So, a lot of your films seem to be about this really interesting exploration of the roots of Black music and Black culture and the origins of American identity, and then kind of how it spiders out over time, right? And the way that it affects people and reflects communities and relationships. Neil Diamond is not an artist that you would think is in the same tradition as some of the other artists and worlds that you've explored. And I will tell you, like, I was a little bit dreading seeing this movie because I have no relationship to Neil Diamond's music. And so I
made the movie for you. That's great. That's what I wanted to hear.
I mean, it really worked on me in that way. Like, it got me actually interested in an artist that I don't have a relationship to. So I'm curious to hear you talk about your relationship to him, and maybe even how you see him reflected in the lineage of films that you've made?
Well, I think that what I get out of Neil Diamond is something that I kind of came to later, because I always knew his music growing up because my dad and my mom listened to his music. It was always that, and I would say people of my generation can kind of like that to some extent. They make fun of Neil Diamond because that is who he was. He was that person that your parents listened to, but you kind of begrudgingly like, yeah, I like that Forever in Blue Jeans song. It's like, Sweet Caroline is obviously the big favorite right now, but it back in the day, it was really kind of like, I'm a Believer was like, you'd see it on the Monkees all the time. And, so I had an idea of his music, but it wasn't really until I got a little bit older that I started really listening to his music, but also just hearing interesting stories about him. And also I started like really kind of like actually reading the lyrics and listening to his music differently. And what I realized is that he is kind of that New York, intellectual, but also a feeling artist that was really dealing with a lot of isolation and really dealing with loneliness and longing and wanting to have love in his life. And even songs that I thought I knew what they were about. Like there's a song Cracklin' Rosie, and I thought, okay, well, this girl Rosie sounds amazing. I don't quite know what she means by a store-bought woman, but you got me, like a guitar humming. And then I found out, oh no, Neil would get together with all his buddies when they didn't have any dates, and they would they'd get a bottle of Rosie and drink and get drunk, and that was the love. And so even the song that I thought was about some girl was actually about not getting one. And so it wasn't until like this one day that I read this article, and I had seen the documentary that I was inspired by for a while, but it was always that thing that I just showed my friends. It wasn't something that I really thought I'd have an actual possibility of making a movie like this. But I had read this article about Neil Diamond coming out to Los Angeles to audition for the movie Lenny, the Bob Fosse movie with Dustin Hoffman, and he bombed the audition, and then he went back to his apartment and he began writing "I Am, I Said," and I was listening to the lyrics now with this idea of trying to do something in Hollywood, failing at it, and wondering if you should even be out there in the first place. And I'd been really experiencing that by having to go back and forth between Memphis and Los Angeles. And there was a lot of times that I just kind of felt a little bit lost. And it's one of those moments where, I've had this twice now. One was, the karaoke moment in Lost in Translation when Bill Murray is singing the song, and I remember just crying in the theater and just going like, Craig, what is up with you right now? And then this moment, I just put on "I Am, I Said," and just had a good cry, and I was like, well, Neil, you found me. Like it took me a while. I guess I needed to feel some loneliness and feel some doubt, and here you are knocking on my door with a song that I never really thought of much of before. And I think that's kind of where he when I was younger, I mean, it's great to listen to 3 6 Mafia and 8 Ball and MJG, but I was a younger man. I was in a much more hungrier place, and sure enough, I guess you can get to a point in your life where and no one heard it all, not even the chair, is something that resonates with you. So it's just where I guess I am right now.
I think that there's connectivity to that though too. Like there is, as a kid who was raised on hip hop and loves 8 Ball and MJG, like I also am finding myself maybe a little bit more emotionally connected to a contemplative kind of singer-songwriter music at this stage of my life. But like those are artists that are weirdly talking to each other, right? Like that idea of isolation that you're talking about, that's not uncommon in a lot of the music that you've portrayed in the films, or in the blues music you've portrayed in the films. And I think it's cool the way that you're able to kind of move between these eras, but you did it in a way that is like, frankly, for me as a person who sees everything, is so exciting for this to not be a Neil Diamond biopic. There is something so fantastic about seeing the way that his music is affecting other people and that they're using it to kind of transform their lives. And I was wondering if you could just talk about that a little bit, of like maybe using some of the tools of a music biopic, but not the conventions.
Yeah, I think that what it was for me is, and look, I love biopics and music biopics, and it's funny. I think I saw an article recently where it's now kind of like a genre, like that it's like almost like a genre that is, you when you're comparing like money returns, like they're going, well, there's horror, there's music genre, there's music biopics, and I never really thought that it was that big of a thing, but now I'm seeing that I mean, even this last year, it's still a thing that's very popular. But I think what it was for me was, how can I get an audience to love and fall in love with somebody that they don't know who they are, and there's been many people that have come up to me and said, I thought you were doing a Neil Diamond biopic. I even went into the movie thinking that's what I was seeing. And I was like, well, you're half right. I mean, it's a biopic. It's just, the point is that I'm hoping you don't know anything about them, like, because that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make about kind of what you pointed to earlier, regionalism. Can you be artistically fulfilled, and can you be fulfilled as a person just by like staying in your community and almost like singing and performing for your community? And can that ultimately be a better way to get a global lens to look at you and to find yourself and to find your happiness and find your worth more through thinking that, playing in bars, or like even having your movie play in a bar like I used to do back in the day, is perhaps more meaningful than what usually biopics go to, which is like, well, when do they break big, and when do they get to that place that they're now supernova? And then it starts getting into the usual things of like, okay, but when do they ruin that? When do they start succumbing to their nightmares, or they're succumbing to their personal problems? And I guess what I always loved about this story is that, he was a recovering alcoholic, and he died sober. He went 25 years of being sober. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Like, maybe there is something to do here that doesn't necessarily need to go in those usual directions with biopics, where they make it and then let's have them destroy themselves. And have the other elements of life be the things that are trying to destroy them.
Mm-hmm.
Random tragedies. If someone's sick in your family, like the things that are very relatable, I think, to a lot of people that aren't necessarily, a Bob Dylan, or another any biopic where there's always that moment where, okay, now they've all got to like have it destroy them. And I mean, I'm dealing with it now, even working on the Snoop Dogg movie. Like, okay, well, how can we think of it a little bit differently and not try to get into that usual thing? So I felt it was just an opportunity to get into something that it's just been very close to me, which is just, can we elevate people that aren't necessarily famous, and say that it's okay, and that, your worth is grand, and grand enough to have like a big Hollywood movie made of it.
Yeah, I liked what you said about the Mike character being in recovery. The whole movie is sort of about recovery of a kind for all the characters, and in different, the different ways that certain things have affected each person. But the movie does, as people who are starting to see it now, realizing it really is like a tale of two halves. There is a first half that is this exuberant rise, and then the second half that is quite tragic and shocking in ways. I hadn't seen the documentary before this. I didn't know anything about their story. And that's a hard tonal balance, to keep an audience on the rails for the two halves of this movie. Maybe can you talk about how you thought about doing that and making us feel safe throughout the story?
Well, it's definitely something that was on my mind throughout the whole thing, because there's so many different ways you can go into that, and I don't mind, talking about it. It's the movie's coming out in 2 days, and I'm sure people are going to know that, Claire Sardina was who plays Thunder. There's lightning and thunder. So Mike is lightning, and Claire was thunder. Right at the moment when they were everything was kind of going great in their life, a car lost control and hit her while she was just gardening in her front yard, and she lost her leg. And I knew that I wanted to tell the movie because of this, because it wasn't like I wanted it to just be, this one element of their story, because I personally feel that that's really where true love is tested. You get into a relationship and everything's fantastic, for those first 3 months. There's emojis, and you're still sleeping in bed and holding on to each other, and you're not getting hot, and saying, hey, that's your side of it. There's all that it just couldn't go any better, right? And then something happens that really kind of tests the love, and tests the commitment. And I knew that the only way that I was really going to do it was to just get people to fall in love. Like it's not something that I wanted to do the usual. I mean, they do it a lot in television, and some movies do it where it's like you kind of start and tease the tragedy and you go back and how did we get to this point? Because I don't really think that the movie completely is about this one tragic moment, because there's a few things that come at this couple and this family that's just trying to, they're just trying to live. They're trying to pay their bills, but they're also trying to make music and play in bars and entertain you. But at the same time, it's like, how many bad things can happen to this couple? But I still found their story rather inspiring. And so for me, I guess I just, I knew that if I could just get to the halfway point and then punch everybody in the gut, that hopefully they would have invested enough time in falling in love that they couldn't just immediately go like, okay, I didn't really sign up for this. But at the same time, like, I didn't want to get too gratuitous in the area of it, because I do think that the whole purpose of this was to see that you can actually pull yourself out of this, and that usually the thing that pulls people out of trauma is a community, is a family, is that realizing that you can't really do it on your own, and you need to hold on to your passion. And for some people, it's holding on to your faith. And for me, in this story, I saw with this documentary that I saw about this couple, their faith was singing. Their faith was, singing Neil Diamond. And it's everybody's got their own thing. I know every year here in Memphis, everybody comes here to mourn Elvis Presley, and we could laugh at it, seeing everybody with their candles. But until you see like somebody from another country who's weeping and telling you don't know what Elvis's music did for me, like it's hard to be cynical about that kind of love and passion for something. And for this couple, it happened to be the two of them singing together and singing these songs. There's a song with Holly Holy that I just knew, like, okay, I knew at the beginning, like, of this whole process, like, if I can get to this moment where they return to singing the song, if I can do what I can to earn this moment, then we will have succeeded. And I think we did.
I think you did too. I just recorded a conversation with my co-host Amanda about the movie, and I started talking about it, and I said something to the effect of, gosh, Hugh Jackman is so winning in this movie. He's so great. And she turned to me and she was like, you always say that, like you're surprised about a Hugh Jackman performance, but it is pretty amazing that he, through a lot of different kinds of parts in a lot of different kinds of movies, it really feels like he's working hard and selling the movie in a way, but you don't feel the artifice of performance either. It's this very interesting thing where he does have this entertainer's quality. And he's really got the movie on his shoulders, especially for the first act. I was hoping you could just talk about casting him and, why he was right for this and what he brings.
It's interesting what you bring up. I'd love to hear what Amanda says about this, because I think that there is something about Hugh as an entertainer. He loves to be on stage. He loves to sing songs and get everybody going. But I find that there's also an unshakable certainty in his earnestness, in his life. I mean, as much as everybody says, "Oh, he's such a dream," he is. I mean, because he really doesn't have any of that. He really is a kind man, and he cares. And I think on this movie, I just knew I had to have him. I mean, I always tell people it's like he was at the top of my list. There wasn't a list. It was Hugh, and I needed two things. I needed Neil Diamond to sign off on the music, and I needed Hugh Jackman because I think he was going to be the only one that could understand that kind of. I mean, yes, he could sing, but that kind of showmanship, Make jokes that he's the greatest showman, but but he does have that, and I think he understands it. And also, and as someone who just went to Milwaukee with him, and so he's hanging out with like we served like frozen custard to 500 people that waited 2 to 3 hours in the snow to see Hugh Jackman, and he was only supposed to serve about 100. And there's this moment where they said, "Okay, Hugh, we're supposed to go," and he's like, "Well, what about all these people? Like they've all been out there," and they're like, "Yeah, but we only said 100, And he's like, and he turned to me, and I was serving with him, and he's like, "Craig, I can't leave him out here like this. I just can't do it. I'll pay for it all," and I just looked at him and I was just like, "You're having such a Hugh Jackman moment. Like, if only people knew this was you, because he does care." And I think he's very subtle in the movie, and he's subtle really in a lot of his movies. I mean, I look at Prisoners, but it's just when that rage comes forward or when that performance comes forward, it's hard to take your eyes off of him. It's powerful. And I think it's that Ozzy in him that felt very comfortable in Milwaukee, talking with people. He's kind of a guy's guy. He can talk to you about sports. He can also talk to you about singing Godspell when he was a teenager. And so he's a very interesting person that traverses this world of kind of like a very interesting position of masculinity,
Yeah.
So I knew I had to have him.
I want to hear you talk about Kate a little bit too, because she is an unusual star to me, where she has been truly iconic in a few movies. Feels like she has not made as many movies in the last decade as you would have thought based on the way that her career launched and what a star she was in the aughts and 2010s. And I'm sure there are a variety of reasons for why she chose to step back or didn't do certain things. But you've kind of tapped into a very different, approaching middle-aged version of Kate Hudson in the film, and you've kind of asked her to do some very unglamorous things. She's doing an accent, which is very risky, and I think she pulls it off very well. So why did you want her to be in that part?
Well, I didn't until I did. And I think it's important for people to hear this, and I'm sure Kate's fine with me saying this, but when you decide you're going to cast somebody, suddenly there's these lists that start going around. And usually like it's 30, deep, but there's the 10 and then there's the 5, it's like, these are the actresses that mean something right now. And Kate wasn't on that. And I'd known Kate for like 20 years. I think I met her for Black Snake Moan, went over to her house, and we started playing like, blues music that she was really, fluent with. She just really knows music, she was at the time, with a musician, and then I met with her a couple of other times over at her house, and I was always trying to find something for us to do. But over the years, she had, moved on, and I had moved on as well. But then Hugh saw her on a TV show on I believe CBS Sunday Morning, and said, you got to check her out. And I went on and I watched the episode, and there was something about just seeing Kate now, like close to like 10 to 15 years later, after I was hanging out with her, and she was talking about her son going off to college, and I was like, wait a minute, that can't be the boy that was like the toddler that was in the room, like when I was there. And then it kind of hit me. It's like, yeah, Craig, we're older. Like, you have teenagers, and yet then Kate would like tear up about it. And then she would say, like, I'm kind of getting tired of Hollywood trying to make up their mind about me, and I'm gonna write music, and I'm gonna go in the recording studio, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna just play venues, and I'm gonna be in a band. And I just thought, oh my God, this is like perfect for her, just absolutely perfect. And so we got on the phone with her. I had a Zoom with Kate. It was like no time had passed, and she said something to me. She goes, "Look, Craig, I know that there's going to be plenty of people that are going to give you the notes that I've got to have agency and I've got to have like, that I've got to be about like my dream and all this kind of stuff. But I'm just telling you, I think she just loves him. I think she just loves him and wants to be married to him and wants to be backing him up in his band and is totally happy doing that. And I was like, I'm so happy that I have like this really confident woman telling me this very important thing that I think is going to be crucial because she has to do that because in the end, she ultimately rescues him as well. And so I don't even think we went to the studio. I mean, what you're supposed to. It's kind of like once I had Hugh, he was like, well, we're doing it with Kate. And we were just off and running. And so I agree with you that she, I tell people Kate's kind of been in her own prison, because she's really good at comedy. Mm-hmm. She's really good at that, when that smile hits, it's huge. It's bigger than life. But I have always felt that she was not being considered for dramatic roles when every time she's done something interesting, like people are always like, oh God, she's so good. And I was like, yeah, but give her a role. There's so many roles over the last 10 years. I was like, she'd be really good in that. I just don't think that people are thinking about her for the same reason. She's kind of good in that romantic comedy, she's your best friend. For women, they see something in her that doesn't necessarily separate her from them. They feel closer to her in some way. But I think that was in this role kind of crucial because they feel that. And then she has this moment that changes everything. And now you have an entire audience that is now going through it with her because of that kind of accessibility that she opens up in people. It's been interesting to watch women and men, but I mean, particularly women talk to me after seeing the movie saying how much they felt like her, even though the exact thing did not happen, that they couldn't help but feel this connection to specifically Kate Hudson going through it. And I found that very interesting.
It's fascinating too, because she's so soulful and almost famous. A music movie, a movie about like what music does to you. And that's a very dramatic part. And you'd think that would have set her up for a lot of parts like this, but she has not done a lot of work like this. And I thought she was quite good. One thing that really struck me about the movie that I quite liked that I'll use as kind of a segue to asking you a broader question about your career is it's a really good movie about class. There's not a lot of studio Hollywood films that are about being at that station in America, in the middle of the country or in a place like where you live, that, there's just not a lot of time for being lower middle class and what that looks like on screen. Because it's not glamorous, not fun. It's hard. It makes people think about what's hard about their lives sometimes too. And that's one of the reasons why we don't see it as often. But that did have me thinking about a slightly different version of class where you are in like a class of filmmaker that is pretty tricky, that like gets defined as like the middle class of filmmaking, right? Where you make
totally,
dramas and films with a lot of music, and they have stars and they get released in theaters and they have heft, but they're not $350 million movies.
Right.
And that's the expectation is not for them to be that. And we're in a time where like that's really being encroached upon, as I'm sure you know better than anybody. So like,
oh, yeah.
I was hoping you could talk maybe about like living in that space and wanting to make those kinds of movies in this time in movie making.
Well, I find it's such a interesting topic that I wish more people would talk about because I think we're heading there in a real substantial way. Like I can't help but think, look, Focus has been absolutely amazing. They really empower their filmmakers. They stay out of their way to some extent. And when I say stay out of their way, they're there to help me. There have been times where it's like, I need just a little bit more. And they were like, of course you need a little bit more. It makes sense for what you're talking about. They're incredibly reasonable. But we started at Universal. It was Donna Langley and Peter Kramer who kind of like said, we think we see what you're doing here when everybody was saying no. But then it moves to Focus. And in doing so, I think what it was is that Universal makes huge, plus $100 million movies, really. And Focus is in a different bracket. And where some people would have said like, oh, it's too bad that you have to do that. And I was like, no, actually, I really want to make this work because I think this is kind of where Hollywood is going. We've got to make movies for less. I mean, it's just we can complain about it, but it's just true, you know? So I'm not saying that I probably one day couldn't do a $100 million movie. I don't know, but I prefer to stay in this space because usually the kind of content that I'm attracted to exists better in this space. You know, you talk about working class. I think there's even something else going on, which is like there really is this, as someone who's, you know, lived in, I have to live in LA a lot because of work sometimes, but there is kind of this Hollywood bubble, you know, and it is existing within itself until something tells you that it's different. So just today, I was watching the latest episode of Landman. I don't know if you all are watching that.
I don't watch it, but I'm aware of it based on many people here at The Ringer. Okay,
so I'm sure everybody at The Ringer talked about it, but I'm watching like a whole sequence that takes place like at like this expo of like, you know, people that are working in the oil industry and also like, you know, just, you know, trucks and expos that I've kind of been to here in Tennessee. And I remember turning to someone and saying like, you know, no one's showing this part of the country in anything. Like, I mean, when was the last time you saw anything remotely like this in a movie or television? And it's really because Taylor Sheridan is doing it. But I remember being at Paramount at a time when they were saying like, you can't do anything with cowboy hats. You can't do anything that's remotely Southern. And I was like, why? And they're like, it's the same reason that every other studio doesn't want to do it. It's specifically middle America, and that's harder to sell internationally. And I was like, okay, but people like in New York and Jersey can have New York, Jersey accents, and that can sell internationally. And they're like, it's easier because it's less American and more accessible to global audiences. And the same reasoning goes into movies with predominantly Black casts. So I'm doing movies with like Southern Black people in it, and like it's just a boom, boom, you know. But I find it interesting that like now huge deals are being made with Taylor Sheridan and everything because he took this space. And then you look at, I mean, I've made 2 pictures at Tyler Perry's studios. So there's people that kind of like go to that place in class and country and they decide just to start making stuff. And then the money starts rolling in and everybody starts kind of scratching their head going like, well, wait a minute. How did this happen? And I think that there's something to that. And I'm hoping that, again, kind of like what, like you said earlier about regionalism, like I do think that there's a conversation to have about like, are we kind of killing ourselves a little bit in the industry because we're making these assumptions of what the globe wants, and no one is necessarily coming from a place of real authenticity.
Couldn't agree more. I'm going to use that as an opportunity to pivot to my regionalism, which is New York and the New York Mets. I read, tell me if this is true, but I read that your grandfather was Marvelous Marv Thornberry. Is that true?
It is true. Okay. It's true.
So what was that like and what did that do to you?
I'm so glad we're talking about this. You're the only person I really wanted to talk to about this. I grew up knowing here's the first memory I have of my grandfather. My mother crying on the phone. I think I'm like 6. And she's saying, don't do it, Daddy. They're going to make fun of you. She's crying. Don't do it. Don't do it. And then she starts talking to my dad. It's like they're flying him to New York. They said that they're going to buy him a suit. Now, looking back, my granddad is not in baseball anymore. He is an overweight, bald, you know, guy that goes fishing in his cabin. But Light Beer from Miller wanted him to be in a commercial where he kind of talked about how, you know, at times bad of a baseball player he was, you know, and he kind of had these spectacular bungles. But if you know anything about the Mets history, like he was beloved. There were shirts, you know.
Yes.
I mean, he was
an icon
they were selling
to the
out.
franchise. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Jimmy Breslin that said he's the first Met. He's really what the Met experience is about. So then later on, I think I was like watching the Olympics, like next year, like a year later, and there's Marv, there's my granddaddy. looking right at the camera going, you used to take 4 Marv Throneberries just to get 1 Carl Farilla baseball card, but light beer from Miller called me, and I couldn't believe it. But then it spawned this whole light beer gang, where Billy Martin and Madden and then Mickey Spillane, I don't know if you remember these commercials where like they would argue, it tastes great, less filling, tastes great, less filling. And at the end of every commercial, there'd be Marv turning right to the camera going, I still don't know why they asked me to do this commercial. And so granted, Marv was like flying everywhere being a celebrity. So I did not grow up with him being a baseball person. I grew up where I knew that he was going out and basically making his money opening up car shows. So all my life growing up in theater, I was always kind of like encouraged that, oh, you're going to be big in sports. And like everybody in my family went to UT Knoxville. So every picture I'm bathed in orange. And I just wasn't good at sports, but I was good at dancing, hence the Footloose, right? But I got into children's theater and I felt really awkward about sports. And I remember even growing up with kind of this chip on my shoulder that I'm not into sports. I'm into theater. I'm into movies. And movies even became that thing that I think that people do with sports, where it's like, you're going to really sit here and tell me that E.T. is the best Steven Spielberg movie over Raiders of the Lost Ark? You're really going to tell me? So it kind of occupies that same thing that I think people have with like baseball players or pitchers or basketball players. And it really wasn't until I started filming Song Sung Blue that I was going through, like, because the movie's about this, I was like, Craig, you got to have a real, like, honest talk with yourself about you and your relationship to sports and why you feel this way. And maybe you got to like get over this and you need to take a big bite into something. So for a good 2 months, I was on a research level exploration as to, should I be a Yankee or should I be a Met? And I was like, yeah, but my granddaddy played for both teams. And everybody in New York was like, because I edited the movie, they're like, no, that's not how this works. You got to declare. And I had like people going like, yeah, but look at the Yankees history. And I read everything about baseball. I really dove in, watched the Ken Burns documentary over and over again. And there was this moment, and it's interesting because you kind of brought it up a little bit earlier, where I think that I was listening to some podcast and somebody was talking about me and they go, you know what? Let me tell you something about Craig Brewer. He's not like an Academy Award winning guy. He hasn't had like that big hit, but he's a good, solid, hits the ball, right over second. He's a good, get on base type of player. And I was like, yeah, I'm a Met. It hit me so clear where I was like, wait a minute, Craig, you live in Memphis. You constantly are dealing with almost getting there with things. You're not Nashville. You know what I mean? Like, even 3 6 Mafia is like not Jay-Z. You know what I mean? They're incredibly important. I think that they have. So I spent the season diving into the Mets. I went to 12 games and it was fascinating. Like I would read every day. I was like, wow, people really are booing Soto. I mean, at the top of the season. Then August hit and it's like, what happened? It's like, I even was thinking like, oh, they just needed me. Like everything's going great. And then like August hit and like Soto was the only one really that people were like cheering him, but then like everything started to kind of like fall apart. And so, and then I got to the end of this and people that were like, fans that had worked on my crew, they were like, this is what we told you. This is that heartbreak that we were talking about. And I have to say though, I still prefer the heartbreak and uncertainty than if I went with a different team. And I'm beginning to understand my granddaddy more. Like my granddaddy actually is known for kind of being a loser. Mm-hmm. Even though he wasn't, he actually has a really good record. I urge you to look it up, but it's like, but he himself kind of embraced those elements in himself. And when people made fun of him, especially people from New York would make fun of him, he was really good at one-upping them on making fun of himself in kind of that Dolly Parton self-deprecating Southern way that suddenly everybody just fell in love with. And so for the first time in my life, like I was thinking, am I closer to Marv than I ever thought I was when I thought I was like distant from him? And especially being in New York and thinking like, man, he was 18 playing the Polo Grounds. Can you imagine stepping up to the plate? 18, especially from where I knew he was from, which is like the country. I mean, he was from Fisherville, Tennessee. He didn't like have, and I started to go like, yeah, it's kind of like what happened to you. It's like I started to feel this connection to him, and just feeling this connection to baseball, and especially the Mets, and going to the games, and like there's nothing better than taking that 7 line in and seeing everybody like getting on, and you're going like, oh man, this is like a different energy than anything else. And it's just, I've been to both stadiums, I've been to both games. There is a working class feel,
no doubt, at Citi Field,
in Citi Field that's just no different.
Doubt. Yeah,
and so that's the Mets kind of oddly rescued me this last year, even though there's plenty to. There's plenty to complain about.
I mean, you're incredibly brave for signing up for this. I would love to know, let's like cut to 5 years from now, if you have had to endure 5 seasons like the one we just had, how you're feeling about the choice you've made. I'd be curious to know, because it is a hard fandom. Like it actually is quite, and I know that you are like drawn to this, and the characters that you portray are people who have to earn it, and there's no handouts, right? Like, it's like you got to go through some shit to get to the other side. But boy, it feels like we've been going through some shit for 40 years, Craig. Like, it's been a hard time.
Yeah. Well, just take comfort that it's been that since the beginning.
I know.
With your grandfather, it really has. Like with Marvelous Marv, and he wasn't called Marvelous Marv until he was a Met. Like, it was a funny thing that he wrote on his locker because he did not feel particularly marvelous, and yet it rescued him. I mean, it even when he was kind of, didn't have money in Fisherville, Tennessee, after his baseball career ended, suddenly the Mets came to his rescue by way of being kind of a known loser to some extent. It's wild. He's got the famous story with Casey Stengel, when which is also another, I mean, this is really the movie that should be made. I love that Casey Stengel is like fired from the Yankees for basically being old, I mean, he was winning,
Yep.
You're
telling the story of the Breslin book of Can Anybody Here Play This Game?
Can play this game. Yeah. And then he puts together this team that's just resoundingly bad. And yet they're selling out their stadiums, and the Yankees are struggling to do that at theirs. And people are scratching their head just going like, what's going on? Why is it that this team that is really in the record books is fighting for the record books to be like the worst team ever is connecting with this crowd? And there's the famous story that I think is Marv tripled, brought in 2 runs that won the game, and then he was called out for not touching second, and then Casey Stengel goes out to the ump and says like, what are you doing? And the ump's like, Casey, he didn't touch first either, and it's like, and so it's like it's just like it couldn't write itself better. My favorite story about Marv is that they had like, I can't remember, I think it was like a couch store that put like a bullseye on the left side of like think in left field, and that if you hit that, then they were going to get a free boat, right? But then Casey didn't like that because he was like, no, all my hitters are going to start trying to hit left field, and so they're like, we're going to put one in right field too. So they now have 2 bullseyes. Marv hits it the most, and he didn't even try to. And they're like, congratulations, Marv, you won this boat. And then he's like, okay, well, I live in Fisherville. How am I going to get it out there? They're like, so you're going to need to rent a place in New York to store the boat. And he's like, and I have to do this. So now he's in for renting this storage facility to house the boat. And then they come up to him and say, and you need to pay taxes on it. And he's like, what do you mean? It's a gift. And they go, no, you earned it. You earned it. And he's like, let me get this straight. I just won a boat that I can't take home. I'm paying for it, and I got to pay taxes on it. So even when he won as a Met, he lost. So you'll have to give me some advice as to like how to handle it. Because how long have you been?
My entire life. My father grew up a Giants fan, and when the Giants left, he jumped right on board in that first year of the Mets, very willingly, very happily. I think he was 9 years old, and so he was a Marv fan and told me all about those teams, and obviously got to live through as a teenager 69. And was a diehard fan for my entire life. And he is like really starting to give up on the team in his, approaching his late 70s. I'm still in. It is my favorite sport. It is my favorite team. But I feel a little beat up, Craig. I do feel a little beat up. This has been a tough couple of months with the way that things have unfurled. And we're talking on the day when Jeff McNeil has been salary dumped. So, we're going through like a real exorcism right now.
And we're learning all kinds of like juicy stuff. Like I'm learning about like Lindor and Soto having a beef. And when am I hearing this right? That Trump was actually like a thing with McNeil and like
so say Mike Francesa.
Yeah,
the famed radio host says that he was told that what came between Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Lindor was Donald Trump. So again, these are all ripe fodder for your films. Like just think about how you could really extrapolate the lives of ball players and the things that come between them when they're in search of greatness.
Yeah. It's that's what I'm saying. Like, if there's definitely going to be a sports movie I should do, I mean, this is definitely it, because it's so wild how much misery is around.
It is
around
wild.
This team, and everybody that's a fan seems to embrace it in this kind of like interesting badge. But I kind of love it. It feels. I mean, the Memphis. I do follow the Memphis Grizzlies, and they're kind of a little bit like that. They're always like that team in the playoffs that's kind of like that fly that's just bothering the team that is going to be moving on. They're like, would Memphis please just fucking die? Would you leave us alone? Stop. We'd like to just win this and move on. But until you're in the FedEx Forum at a Memphis Grizzlies game and you hear 20,000 people, including like blue-haired old ladies, chanting "Whoop that trick" from my movie Hustle and Flow, you don't know what fury is.
That's magic. Yeah, I wish we had our version of that at Citi Field. Craig, we end every episode of the show by asking filmmakers what's the last great thing they have seen. Have you been watching movies? You're an Academy voter, I assume.
I am an Academy voter. Let's see, the last great thing that I've seen. I really love Sentimental Value.
What did you like about it?
Well, maybe it's hitting. I think there was something about the fact that I have a 17-year-old daughter that is. It's so funny. She came to me at the top of the year and she said, "You're not going to make it to my high school graduation, aren't you?" And I was like, "Why would you say that?" She goes, "Because you're doing Snoop Dogg. Like, you're going to be doing this movie next year and you're probably going to be shooting while I'm graduating." And I was like, "That may be possible, honey." And like, she suddenly has this like agency and knowledge about things that it just kind of rattles. I don't know if you have a daughter or not, but like
I do, but she's 4, so she doesn't know, and I'm not going to be around.
Just wait, because they just can look right into your soul. It's like they're every wife, mother, and girlfriend you've ever had, but there's just nothing that's going to stop them from being honest, and it's amazing but startling. And she said, "I want you to direct the play that I just got cast in the high school. It's 12 Angry Men, which is called 12 Angry Jurors." And I was like, "Honey, I owe 2 scripts. I got like a movie that's coming out in December." And she just kind of like said, "Yeah, but I need you to do this." And so I directed the play. And to be a director where your daughter is the lead and knowing that you're seeing things in them where it's like, "Yeah, I'm so sorry that like, this is kind of what we do. We kind of take our pain and misery and we do things with it. We act with it, we write with it, we direct with it, and it creates kind of like this." I mean, I have a much better relationship, obviously, than the one in that movie. But I couldn't help but feel, that's the horrible thing about the multi-generational connections and trauma that family kind of was going through, and yet at the same time, everybody's using it. I mean, even the opening scene where she's just like, it's taking everything for her to get out on that stage. Like, that's what I love about actors, is that, I know that we treat them as if they've got this privileged life, but we want them to stand on this mark, and we want them to cry sometimes all day. And then everything that they're committing to us is forever. And I see the toll that's taken on them. And so there was something about that movie that I think just kind of spoke to that relationship. And it's almost like you mourn the fact that your child is doing something that's kind of similar to what you're doing, or they have the same kind of passion. and you almost want to you almost want to direct them in another way. But so I found that movie, and then I'm stumping for. I keep on saying, I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, but I just thought that Weapons was one of the great movies of this year, and I think we all need to start having a conversation about horror. That it's still being kind of segregated a little bit in awards talk, so I would say that's Sentimental was the last thing I saw that I really liked, and but I've got to see some more now that the holidays are here.
Two great picks, two of my favorites of the year. What a pleasure talking to you, Craig. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you to Craig Brewer. Thank you to our producer, Jack Sanders, for his work on this episode. We will be back later this week with the final film in our 25 for 25 series, which I'm excited about. This is our last recording.
This is it.
Of 2025.
Yeah.
And
barring, like, I don't know what. Chris Ryan over the weekend was trying to imagine situations in which we'd have to do an emergency podcast.
Eileen asked me about this.
Yeah.
So what would have to happen?
I feel like, if like Trump seizes Warner Brothers, then I guess I really hope that doesn't happen for a multitude of reasons.
Oh my God.
But that would be pretty bad.
That would be bad. Gosh.
And then,
what my go-to is.
Go ahead.
My go-to is always when Jack Nicholson dies.
Yeah.
When Jack Nicholson dies, and I have to just record for 12 straight hours. And I'll tell you something. I've been thinking about this. I have been like reluctant in the last few years to not even like think about doing episodes about Jack. Like not locate movies of his that are important. Like when we get onto a movie of his, like we didn't talk really about As Good as It Gets when we talked about James L. Brooks.
Yeah.
We didn't really talk about him. We talked about Anger Management with Adam Sandler. I'm kind of like storing it up.
Okay.
He was my first favorite actor.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to will anything negative into his existence.
You don't need to like do it now.
I know. And it's like, have I even really talked about him on the rewatchables? I guess on A Few Good Men we talk about him, but like
we talked about him on Something's Gotta Give.
Something's Gotta. I mean, and he's magnificent.
Yeah.
Something's Gotta Give. But I feel like there's a lot inside me about him.
But are you going to want to do on an emergency podcast?
No. It's but we would build out a suite of coverage.
Right, exactly. Well, that's an uplifting note to go on. Thank you so much for bringing that to us.
You did a great job this year.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We'll see you in 2 days.